Shocking truth, the untold story of Lydia, the businesswoman who changed the church forever. In a small town brimming with secrets and shadows, Lydia conquered the impossible. She was no ordinary businesswoman. She was a force of nature, turning the devout community upside down with her visionary ideas. Every Sunday, while others whispered prayers, she whispered plans, the kind that sent shivers down spines. Who was this woman destined to change the church forever? Rumors swirled like autumn leaves caught in a fierce wind, mixing facts and fiction until no one could tell them apart. Some claimed her past was tainted with scandal, others said she could charm the very angels out of heaven. But one thing was clear: something was unfolding that would alter the very essence of faith itself. The first strange hint emerged from the creaking old church doors, where the congregation's eyes met Lydia's penetrating gaze. That look was electric, charged with an unspoken promise. Each time she leaned into a hushed conversation, hearts raced, fueled by a mix of awe and trepidation. The powerful aroma of incense hung heavy in the air, twisting around the heads bowed in reverence, yet Lydia seemed immune to its sanctity, transcending the ritualistic atmosphere. She painted ambitious visions of a radical church, where everyone wealthy and destitute alike would be welcomed. It sounded too good to be true. The feel of skepticism gripped the hearts of the old-timers, their brows furrowed, while younger souls leaned in eagerly, captivated by the promise of something new. But as whispers turned to open murmurs, the tide of suspicion grew. Questions bubbled to the surface like oil rising in water. How could one woman have such influence? Why did the once united community now stand divided? Lydia's actions were drawing eyes and ears from beyond their sleepy town, and the church elders couldn't ignore the tides changing around them, like a storm brewing on the horizon. It was a delicate balance, a cat-and-mouse game between respect and rebellion, devotion and doubt. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads-up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As tensions hit a fever pitch, the impending confrontation loomed larger. Lydia's challenge to the long-held traditions pricked like needles in the gathered crowd, their anticipation dancing like flames in the wind. Some clutched their Bibles tighter, expecting a storm of condemnation, while others opened their hearts to the potential of her vision. The air thickened, suffused with fear and possibility. What would happen next? Would Lydia's ambition shatter their beliefs, or would it illuminate an entirely new pathway to faith? The clock ticked ominously, and the question hung in the humid air like an unsung melody waiting to be unleashed. As the clock struck 12, the tension snapped like a taut string plucked too hard. The crowd shifted uneasily, chairs creaked, and whispers escalated into a frantic buzz, echoing off the church's high ceilings. Lydia stood at the pulpit, an almost divine figure silhouetted against the stained glass. Her presence seemed to draw all the fear and hope in the room, concentrating it into a pulsing mass. She knew the eyes on her, piercing and judging. "We stand at a crossroads," she began, her voice as smooth as silk yet sharp as a knife. "Are we to continue with the same old prayers, or shall we embrace a new vision? One that dares to love beyond the walls we've constructed?" A few gasps rippled through the congregation. Old Mrs. Henderson, a lifelong member, clutched her rosary tighter. "What does she mean?" Her whisper was filled with dread. "Walls? We have always been a family here." "Yeah," someone muttered from the back, "a good family sticks to tradition." But Lydia leaned into their discomfort, her eyes sparkling with fiery conviction. "We are called to be the change. The world outside is crumbling, and we have the chance to rebuild it together." Her words hung in the air, tangible and electric. The room simmered. Some faces brightened with excitement, while others twisted in disdain, as if struck by a chill wind. "What did she just say? Rebuild the church?" a young man exclaimed, the color draining from his face. "This is madness," Lydia noticed the divide. There is a wave of transformation, she continued, her voice rising, daring to reach the most skeptical ears. Just as Christ welcomed the outcasts, we too must throw open our doors. This church can be a sanctuary for the lost, the forgotten, the broken. A ripple of unease swept through the crowd, and Lydia pressed on. Imagine a place where no one is judged, where love reigns above all. A roar of murmurs erupted. Some clapped fervently, while others stood in stunned silence. The backlash was palpable. Even the air felt thicker. Is she rejecting our faith? Came a voice from the back, a familiar face for years, George, the eldest deacon. His eyes narrowed. Lydia, you are stepping into treacherous waters. This is not how you respect our traditions. The wind outside howled, rattling the stained glass windows like a warning bell. Lydia could see the fear in their eyes, fear of change, fear of disappointment. I respect our history, but I dare to envision a future. The walls began to feel like they were closing in, shadows creeping along the corners of the room. Tension surged as Lydia anticipated the confrontation, swirling like smoke around her. She took a deep breath, ready to fight for her vision. But as she spoke, the doors swung open with a force that sent a collective gasp through the congregation. A tall figure stepped in, an unknown presence in a crisp black suit, casting a long shadow. The air shifted, heartbeats quickened. Who dares enter during this moment? George barked, his authority challenged. The man's eyes met Lydia's, and a slow, knowing smile crept across his face. Time hung suspended, and as everyone turned to stare, the whispers of doubt transformed into a crackling tension filled with curiosity. What secrets did this stranger carry? And how would Lydia react to this unforeseen disruption? As the new arrival took another step inside, the weight of the moment hung in the air, shifting the stakes higher than they had ever been. Could Lydia's radical dreams survive the dark forces lurking just beyond the church doors? Would her vision endure, or was this moment the beginning of her unraveling? The question hung there, ominous and unresolved. The figure paused just inside the threshold, a shadowy silhouette framed by the brilliant light of the stained glass. The tension in the room sharpened like a knife, slicing through the murmurs and gasps that had erupted in response to his entrance. Lydia's heart raced, her pulse pounding in her ears. She hadn't anticipated this intrusion, and yet it felt oddly predestined. "Who are you?" George demanded, his voice slicing through the charged atmosphere. The deacon stepped forward, a guardian at the gate, ready to defend the fortress of their beliefs from this formidable stranger. But the man merely chuckled, his smile deepening as he took a few confident strides inside the sanctuary. "There's no need for defenses," he said, his voice smooth and rich, echoing through the church like a haunting melody. "I come not to destroy, but to reveal." The congregation stiffened, their discomfort palpable. A few members clutched their pews, unsure if they should flee or stay. Lydia squared her shoulders, her breath hitching momentarily before she steadied herself. This was her moment to take control, or watch everything she envisioned shatter into dust. "Reveal what?" she asked, her voice firm yet quaking with tension. She swept her gaze across the faces before her. Some were intrigued, others frightened, and many still sealed in disbelief. With a flourish, the stranger revealed a sleek black folder from within the folds of his jacket. "Inside this file," he said, holding it like a prized possession, "is the truth about our community, our congregation's past, and a glimpse into its future. A truth that many of you may not be ready to confront." Gasps filled the air, and Lydia felt her chest tighten. What could he possibly hold that would threaten her vision? Was he here to unearth skeletons long buried? What's in there? Someone shouted, the voice trembling with a mix of fear and intrigue. "Are you accusing us of something?" The stranger's gaze intensified, locking on to Lydia once again. "Think of me as a messenger." The question isn't just what's in this folder. It's what you will do with the knowledge that lies within. Lydia felt exposed, an unsettling shiver racing down her spine as he took another step forward, the weight of his presence consuming the space between them. "You claim to want change, Lydia," he continued, "but what if the very fabric of your church is woven with threads of deceit? The whispers transformed into a cacophony of uncertainty. Fear crackled like electricity in the air, and Lydia could practically taste it. Could her dream withstand the dirt that might come to light? What was he hiding behind that dark suit and confident smile? Enough! George barked, his voice reverberating in the chapel like thunder. You have no authority here. We will not entertain your provocations. Lydia, don't listen to this man. But already, doubt wormed its way into Lydia's thoughts. Would confronting whatever lay hidden be a path to salvation? Or the destruction of everything she had fought for? Lydia felt caught in a tempest, uncertainty swirling around her like a dark cloud. Before she could respond, the figure opened the file dramatically, papers rustling like the sound of wings. The eyes of everyone in the church zeroed in on him, anticipation hanging thick in the air, a moment pregnant with the promise of revelation. Ready or not, he breathed, it's time to learn the truth about your church and the cost of turning a blind eye. What surprises lay ahead in those unspoken pages? And what consequences awaited Lydia if she dared to uncover them? With her vision on the line, would she risk it all for a truth that could shatter everything she believed? A new wave of tension rolled through the crowd, as they clung to the edge of their seats, waiting for the storm to break. The figure's fingers danced over the papers, the flicker of light casting shadows that twisted ominously across the floor. Lydia felt a lump rise in her throat, her heart hammering harder with each rustle of the pages. It was as if every eye in the church was glued to that folder, ready to spring into chaos at the slightest hint of scandal. Stop this, George boomed, anger radiating from him like heat from a flame. We're better than this drama. We won't succumb to your theatrics. The stranger's smile widened, revealing a flash of white teeth, but there was nothing friendly in his gaze. Oh, but isn't drama what you thrive on? The whispers, the secrets, the facade you all wear to shield yourselves from truths you'd rather ignore. It's time to peel back the layers, George. People shifted nervously, glancing at one another as the tension thickened. Lydia's mind raced, flicking through the memories of whispered conversations, the uneasy silences, the things left unspoken among friends who were more like family. What could possibly be in that folder that threatened to unravel everything? With a sudden motion, the stranger glanced at the congregation. Have you ever wondered what lies beneath the polished surface of your lives? The charity events, the good works. What if, behind that virtuous mask, sit secrets so deep they could drown you all? A murmur rippled through the group, fear igniting apprehension. Lydia felt her brows knit together. They spoke of unity, of love, but beneath it all had there really been darkness? What could possibly be in there? She whispered to herself, dread clawing at her insides. I'll show you, he answered softly, his voice a cold whisper that seemed to echo throughout the chapel. With a flick, he revealed a photograph. It floated out to the congregation like a tether, filled with images of familiar faces marred by whispers of betrayal. Screams erupted, horrified gasps, as one image brought forth recognition: a well-respected couple, a deaconess she admired fiercely, and a cryptic snapshot of a forgotten past, one drenched in shadows. Lydia's breath caught in her throat. Shameless! George exploded, his face blazing with rage as he stepped forward, fists clenched. Enough games! This is slander. Or is it a wake-up call? The stranger countered, eyes glimmering with a cold clarity. You can run from the truth all you want, but it's here right in front of you. Lydia, he claimed to stand for you. But did you really know what he was capable of? Lydia's pulse raced as a whirlwind of emotion seized her. Was this a ploy to tear them apart? Or was there a kernel of truth buried deep in the allegations? Pain sliced through her chest. In her heart, she believed in the vision she had dreamt of, a community united in faith, but now, its foundation was quaking. George attempted to wrest control, gesturing to the man. Leave! Your words will not sow discord here, not in our church. Leaving isn't enough, the stranger replied, voice echoing like a tolling bell. The past is never far behind, and it demands your attention. Healing comes first, but only after the pain is acknowledged. The air grew dense with silence, each word sinking into the eyes and hearts of the congregation. Lydia felt that sharp ache of dread again, her spirit wrestling with the weight of potential betrayal. Could she face the possibility of lies? Betrayals that wove into the very fabric of her dreams? She took a deep breath, mustering courage. "Show me," she said, her voice trembling but undeniably firm. "Show us all." The stranger paused, a slow grin spreading across his lips as he leaned against the pulpit, the folder still firmly in hand. "Very well, Lydia. You're on the precipice of a revelation, but know this: sometimes the truth isn't just shocking. It's life-altering." With that, he flipped open the file wider, and Lydia braced herself for what was about to unfold. What revelations lay hidden within those files? And what price would Lydia have to pay to uncover the truth of her church and herself? The air teetered on the brink of chaos as the congregation held its collective breath, waiting for the first full truth to tumble out into the light. The stranger's fingers danced across the edges of the folder, displaying the weight of anticipation that hovered over the room like an impending storm. Shadows flickered wildly as the candlelight shifted, amplifying the tension, making hearts race and breaths hitch. "Here it is," he finally said, his voice low and lethal. With a swift motion, he pulled out a document, crisp and damning. It was a letter, typed neatly, but its contents were anything but innocent. Lydia leaned forward, her eyes scanning the words, her stomach tightening. It spoke of financial mismanagement, funds redirected to shadowy backers, all wrapped in layers of deceit. Gasps floated through the air, punctuating the growing dread that seeped into the souls present. Faces paled as the letter's implications hit like a ton of bricks. George's fury twisted counterclockwise into confusion, disbelief settling in like a thick fog. "This is a lie!" he barked, the vehemence in his voice lacking the usual confidence. "Is it? Or just the first layer of the truth?" The stranger's voice dripped with mock sympathy. "I wonder, George. How deep does it go? How many secrets can one man bury beneath a facade of goodness?" Lydia felt her throat constrict. She thought of the charity drives, the community events that had brought them all closer. Had it all been a cover? The flickers of doubt ignited into flames as she recalled the deals, the whispers about unexplained cash. Her mind raced, tracing connections while desperately searching for a lifeline. She needed clarity. Then the stranger shifted his gaze, fixing it squarely on her. "And you, Lydia, you want to know the truth? You really want to see? Hold on to something solid." The anticipation was electric, every eye in the room wide, brimming with trepidation as they awaited her response. "Yes," she breathed out, almost a whisper, but it rang out amidst the chaos like a bell tolling in the dead of night. "Show us what you have." With an eerie smile, he revealed another photograph. This one captured a moment of clandestine meeting between George and another figure, cloaked in darkness. Two men exchanging what appeared to be a thick envelope. The resemblance to her community leader was undeniable, and the blood drained from Lydia's face. Silence reigned, heavy and stifling, as recognition hit the congregation hard. Shocked stares turned into murmurs, unspoken accusations flying as everyone grasped the implications. Lydia's hands trembled, bow rising in her throat. This wasn't just about George anymore. It felt like a shattering of all she had stood for. Lies and deception. "It's all the same, isn't it?" the stranger continued as he walked slowly among the pews, picking up on the whispers of shock and disbelief. "You choose to live blind, and yet the truth whispers its dark secrets, begging to be unearthed." Finally, he paused near Lydia, his voice lowering conspiratorially. "But it's not just George. There's more, much more, all resting in this folder. And the real question is, how far are you willing to go to uncover it?" Lydia's heart raced, caught between a spark of hope and an ember of fear. Could she really unveil the truth that might destroy everything she knew? The flick of embers fading into darkness sent pangs of uncertainty through her. "Are you prepared to face it?" he pressed, his eyes gleaming with a mix of menace and excitement. As George stepped forward, anger boiling in his veins, he shouted, "Enough! This is slander. You're out to ruin us." "No, George," the stranger said, his voice slithering through the room. "I'm here to show you that your very foundation is crumbling, like dust in the wind. Reality is about to devour you whole." The air thickened, laden with betrayal. Lydia felt as if she were teetering on the edge, swaying precariously between light and dark. What would she do with this knowledge? How many souls would be exposed? Lydia's hand tightened around the edge of the pulpit, heart thundering in her chest as she prepared for a revelation that could ruin or redeem them. Desperation spiked as she whispered, "What else is in there?" But the stranger just smiled, folding the folder closed, leaving them all in breathless anticipation. "Next time, my dear, the truth will come with a price when you may not be ready to pay." The tension cracked like thunder, deafening in its magnitude, echoing with unanswered questions and hiding the darkest secrets yet to be revealed. What lay within the depths of that folder could change everything. Darkness danced eagerly in the shadows, waiting to pounce. Lydia had no idea what choices lay ahead, but one thing was clear: the truth was out there, and it wouldn't be long before it demanded to be faced. The weight of the moment bore down on Lydia as the stranger's cryptic warning hung in the air, heavy and filled with foreboding. Every soul in the dimly lit room seemed paralyzed by disbelief, their eyes darting between the stranger and George, whose face had twisted into a mask of fury and betrayal. "Enough of this!" George barked, a desperate edge to his voice. His hands clenched into tight fists, and he stepped closer to the stranger, the tension crackling between them like static electricity. "Do you really want to silence the truth?" the stranger retorted, amusement dancing in his dark eyes. "Because if you do, I assure you, it will haunt you far worse than an unwelcome revelation." Lydia's instincts screamed at her to intervene, to defuse the mounting hostility, but her voice was trapped behind the knot of terror tightening in her throat. What kind of monster hid behind the familiarity of the man who had led their community for years? Everything they had built together felt like sand slipping through her fingers. Suddenly, the whisper of the crowd faded into a low hum. The stranger opened the folder once more and revealed a third photograph, a chilling image that sent waves of ice through her veins. It depicted a location, unmistakably their community center, but it was the date scribbled across the bottom that caused the blood to drain from her face. 3 days before the charity gala, he said, his tone dripping with sinister satisfaction. A meeting took place here, where decisions were made, decisions that affected your livelihoods. What you thought was a community gathering was really just a facade. Gasps erupted, echoing through the crowd like shattering glass. Lydia's heart raced wildly. Her fingers grazed the edge of the pulpit, anchoring her to the moment. From the charity you believed was helping the needy, funds were flowing out to unknown benefactors, he continued, surveying their horrified expressions. Money that built houses of cards, all teetering on the brink of collapse. But first, let us look at who else benefited. He flipped to another page, and Lydia braced herself. A list scrawled in hurried handwriting lay bare before them, names intertwined with dollar amounts, each more shocking than the last. Friends and neighbors. Community members. The reality sank in, clawing at her insides, driving home the finality of betrayal. "Your brothers in arms, your friends all implicated," the stranger taunted. "This isn't just George's downfall, it's a tapestry of corruption woven together. How many of your beloved allies were masked so convincing you've never suspected? I won't let you destroy our community!" George shouted, rage boiling over. He lunged toward the stranger, but a hand shot up to stop him. "Is it destruction if the truth sets you free?" the stranger challenged, eyes locked onto George's like a hunter regarding its prey. "Therein lies the crux of your dilemma. What are you willing to sacrifice to preserve your fragile world?" Lydia felt the ground shift beneath her as George's defenses crumbled. The realization rippled through her: she had a choice to make, one that could fracture their community beyond repair or potentially heal it. The stranger's gaze flickered toward her. "You wanted to see the truth, Lydia. Well, here it is, staring you down with open eyes. Will you turn your back on it?" Her breath fell short, the battle of morality raging within her. Could she confront these shadows? Could she dismantle the facade without losing everything? Her stomach twisted as uncertainty clawed at her. Just then, the lights overhead flickered ominously, plunging the room into semi-darkness for mere seconds. In that fleeting moment, as gasps echoed through the air, She looked around at the faces she recognized, fear mingling with hope. A decision was woven through their gazes. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. "Tell us everything," Lydia found her voice, rising above the murmurs. "I'm ready to hear whatever you have to say." The stranger's lips curled into a gnarled smile, and the shadows seemed to thicken, boiling with anticipation. "Very well. But be warned, the price of truth is often paid in blood." And with that, Lydia felt a chill wind blow through the room, evening the stakes. They were on the precipice of something monumental, a revelation that was either the beginning of their salvation or the end of all they held dear. The flicker of fear danced within her, but it was the flicker of courage that began to burn brighter. As the stranger delved deeper into the folder, swelling silence held them captive. What other horrors lay within? What truths would emerge from the depths of darkness, clawing their way into the light? One thing was clear: the storm was just gathering strength, and Lydia was at the eye of it. The atmosphere shifted like the air before a storm, electric and waiting. The stranger leaned into the pulpit, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Let me take you back to the beginning of it all." Lydia clutched the edge of the pulpit tighter, her knuckles white. She could feel the weight of every eye in the room on her, like a spotlight burning into her skin. Unsure whether to stand tall or sink beneath it. "For years ago," he began, "your beloved George initiated a project that promised hope, prosperity, a new life for your community." "Hope?" George shouted, disbelief lacing his voice. "That all this is about?" They were dreams for the future. Dreams built on lies. The stranger's gaze pierced through the chaos. "Yes, your cushy ideals put a shiny gloss on the facade, but peering under it reveals the decay, misuse of funds, exploitation of trust, and a little secret that has been buried deep." Uneasy murmurs rippled through the crowd. Lydia felt her heart thump in rhythm to their anxiety, echoing in her ears. "Your community center," he continued, "was transformed into a key player in a web of deception. The very place where you forged bonds, potlucks, and memories, served as a front, a laundering speakeasy for those derailed finances. No one knows the real ending better than the person behind it." All eyes fell upon George, the monumental weight of betrayal pressing down harder on him. He staggered back, caught off guard. "What are you saying?" George's voice faltered, the mask of control slipping. "Don't make him a scapegoat," Lydia interjected, voice shaking as she tried to reclaim the narrative. "What are you really getting at?" The stranger maintained his gaze on George, silencing Lydia's outburst. "You all need clarity. Your community continues to thrive under the guise of good intent, but that means nothing when the heart of your leadership is rotten. George, what really happened that night of the charity gala?" George visibly shrank into himself, eyes darting, as if searching for a door in the crowd's tension. "I didn't know!" he cried. The truth echoed back and forth like an accusation. "Of course," the stranger leaned back, relishing the moment. "You didn't want to know." He tore another photograph from the folder, brandishing it like a weapon. "This is from the night you were all eating cake and laughing. Doesn't he look like much, does it? But wait! Who's that in the corner?" Lydia leaned forward, dread pooling in her stomach. The figure a familiar outline. "Your people were not just gathering, but making deals with the highest bidders in the backroom. All while you were blissfully unaware." A gasp escaped Lydia's lips, and around the room, whispers erupted like wildfire. People exchanged glances tinged with both recognition and horror. "You need to see how deep this goes," the stranger pressed on. "You must know how the strings are pulled if there's a hope for any of you to salvage what's left." He turned his piercing gaze back to Lydia. "Do you still believe you're ready for the full truth?" Lydia swallowed, her throat dry as sandpaper. The weight of choice crashed down upon her. Did she want to unravel the illusion that had sheltered her world? She glanced around again, at the faces she had known all her life now twisted in anxiety. I. Before she could finish, the lights flickered again, this time plunging the room into darkness so complete it was suffocating. A collective gasp turned into the sound of scrambling, as if they all moved instinctively away from an unseen danger. "Let there be light," the stranger murmured. A moment later, the dim light flickered back on, but in its harsh glow, everything felt different. Lydia noticed a figure looming beside the stranger, a silhouette she recognized. "Stay where you are!" George shouted, panic surging through his words. "Who's that?" Every heartbeat echoing struck like a drum. With the faintest hint of a smile curling at the corners of his lips, the stranger stepped aside to reveal Lydia. The figure shrieked, voice like shattered glass. It was someone she hadn't seen in years but had never forgotten. The room erupted in chaos as Lydia gasped, feeling the gravity of what had just stepped into the light. The storm had broken. What fresh horrors awaited them? Who else lurked in the shadows, and what new truths would they unleash upon their already fractured world? Lydia's breath hitched as she recognized the figure Marissa, her sister. Once inseparable, the distance between them had grown unbearable after she had vanished years ago. The cacophony of shocked voices rose and crashed, creating a discordant symphony. George's face contorted in frustration and fear, his earlier bravado crumbling. Each shout and murmur seemed to close in on Lydia, reminding her of all the years lost. "Marissa!" Lydia finally shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. "What are you doing here?" "Lydia, they can't tell you the truth." Marissa's frantic eyes darted around the room, pleading yet defiant. "You have to listen to me. It's a trap." Confusion flickered in Lydia's mind. A trap? Marissa hadn't been part of her world, so why did it feel like she understood it all too well? The stranger remained poised, his expression entertained, almost smug. "What do you think you know?" he taunted, shifting slightly as if daring her to challenge him. "You want to hear her version of events? But it's just as skewed as the rest." Marissa shot him a venomous look, her fingers twitching at her sides, barely suppressing the impulse to lash out. "You don't understand anything." "I understand the game of deception well enough," he replied, his tone cool and calculated. Now what kind of sister would let her kin drown in a sea of lies? An ominous hush fell over the crowd, all eyes fixated on Lydia and her sister. The words hung thick in the air, an accusation that stirred a myriad of emotions. "Tell us, Lydia," George called out, voice strained. "What is she hiding? You've been silent long enough." Lydia felt nauseous. Conflicting feelings twisted her heart, love for her sister, but also the pulsating dread of everything unraveling. "Marissa, what is going on?" "I saw things," she exclaimed, stepping toward the pulpit. "Things I can't explain right now. But you can't trust him." She pointed at the stranger, her eyes burning with urgency. "He's the reason I left. I'm the one who had to suffer for what they did. They twisted everything you felt was true." Fear knotted in Lydia's stomach as she processed Marissa's words. "What do you mean? Who is he?" The stranger stepped closer, a predator circling its prey. "Didn't you know, dear sister? It's always the family that holds the closest secrets. What did your sister promise you all those days ago? Did she think you wouldn't find out?" Marissa's face went pale. "Don't listen to him," she shouted, desperation clear in her voice as she grabbed Lydia's arm. "It's about survival. They thought they could take everything from us." A scuffle from the back of the room cut through the tension as someone shouted, throwing the crowd into panic. Lydia turned, straining to see what had escalated behind her. "This isn't just about family," the stranger rasped, his voice dripping with malice. "It's about the control that binds you all together, each of you broken in your own way, and yet too loyal to see the truth. Are you ready to unearth the rotten roots of this so-called community?" "Don't do this!" Lydia screamed, scared of the tide of chaos rising. She had lost so much already. Could she really bear to dig deeper into her family's fractured legacy? "Just answer me this," the stranger challenged. "Do you want the truth? Or will you blind yourself to the darkness for just a little longer?" The pressure felt immense. Fear sliced through Lydia's mind, pulsating with the realization of what might surface. Suddenly, everything closed in. Clouds of uncertainty hung over her like a storm. Their world stood on the brink, choices looming. With her mind racing, Lydia gripped the side of the pulpit, feeling the weight of both her sister and the stranger's piercing gaze. Which way would she turn? What secrets would return to haunt them all? And what would it cost to finally learn the truth? The room rattled with uncertainty. Lydia felt the ground shift beneath her, both familiar and foreign. It was like being thrust back to childhood, where every whispered secret held the power to unravel their world. Marissa's grip tightened on her arm, her voice a hushed whisper. "You don't know him, Lydia." The fear in her sister's eyes gave Lydia a cold shiver. "He*s not just a stranger. He*s the one who's been lurking in the shadows, controlling everything from behind the scenes." The stranger chuckled, a low, menacing sound that sent chills racing down Lydia's spine. "Oh, Marissa. You always were dramatic. But you're right about one thing. I've seen the strings to this little puppet show, and you're all dancing at my command." Lydia's heart raced. What did he mean? Puppet show? She scanned the crowd, faces filled with confusion, distrust, and desperation. They were waiting for her to make a move, and the weight of their expectations felt like a noose around her throat. "Stop it!" she yelled, her voice trembling. "Just stop. If you want to play games, then let us play." The stranger's smile widened, revealing a glint of something sinister in his eyes. "Games, you say? Oh, we're way past that, dear Lydia. You want the truth? Then let us unearth it together." Suddenly he flicked his wrist, and the lights dimmed, plunging the room into near darkness. Gasps echoed. Lydia felt her heart hammer in her chest, panic growing as she lost sight of Marissa. "Marissa!" she shouted, reaching for the shadows. Her pulse quickened as the edges of her world blurred into shadows, the whispers of fear clawing at her mind. "Lydia!" Marissa's voice broke through, laced with urgency. "We have to leave. It's not safe." Before Lydia could respond, a blinding light flickered back to life, illuminating the stranger in a stark glow. He stood there, an ominous figure, as if he were basking in their shock. "Did you know it was me who orchestrated everything back then?" he hissed, his voice cutting through the tension. "That night that changed everything for your family, those screams you heard? That was my final act of control. Yours is merely the beginning." A sharp intake of breath filled the room, followed by a murmur of disbelief. Lydia's knees quaked as fragments of her past rushed back, her family's unraveling, the accusations made in hushed tones, the shadows lingering over her childhood. "No," Lydia whispered. "You're lying." "I'm afraid the lies were scripted long before you were born," he replied, his tone smooth like silk, dangerous. "And the choice always lay with you, Lydia. Choose the truth, unravel the darkness, or continue this charade while the puppets dance." Lydia felt a swell of anger rise within her. She couldn't let him manipulate her any more, or her sister. "What do you want?" she managed, choking back disappointment and anger. "Only what you're willing to give," he replied, eyes glinting. "You must decide what's of more value to you, the truth, or the safety of your delusions." A thick silence blanketed the room, every eye on Lydia, every heart holding its breath. The truth felt like a ticking bomb, ready to explode. Would she dare defuse it? Marissa surged beside her, breathless. "Lydia, please. We can't trust him. Let us get out." But the stranger laughed, a mocking sound. "Running won't save you. The moment you open the door to the truth is the day you became part of the story." With that, the lights flickered again, plunging them into a swirling chaos of darkness and noise. Lydia felt the room spinning, and her sense of reality shattered around her. "Lydia!" Marissa's voice screeched through the shadow. But just as quickly, it was snatched away as darkness enveloped them both. Where would they end up? What corridors of their family's cursed history were about to shove their way into the open? And who would be waiting for them when the dust finally settled? Lydia's breath quickened, her mind reeling with the stranger's ultimatum, the weight of her choices pressing down like a suffocating blanket. The swirling darkness wrapped around them, a funnel of chaos igniting fear at her core. Fear of the truth, fear of the consequences. "Lydia!" Marissa's panicked voice broke through the disorientation. "We can't let him win." But as the shadows thinned, an unsettling clarity began to pierce through the confusion. An internal flash illuminated what lay buried beneath the anguished layers of their past. She had to decide now. Her dream of a loving, united community hinged on her response to the mess they were in. "No more running," Lydia said, her voice trembling like a flame barely held in check. She could feel the ground shudder under her feet, as if the very essence of reality awaited her words. The room surged back into focus, and the stranger was still there, eyes glinting with cruel anticipation. Lydia turned her resolve into fierce determination. "No more lies. Show us everything." The stranger's lips curved into a smile that sent icy fingers racing down her spine. "Such bravery! But be warned, truth can cut deeper than any blade." He extended both arms wide, inviting the inevitable. The lights flickered ominously, illuminating the faces of the congregation. Anger, confusion, fear swirled like a storm among them. George still glowered, unable to fathom the depths of betrayal unraveling around him. Lydia could sense the tremors of doubt lacing their loyalty. Cracks had formed in the facade they all relied upon. "Are you all ready to face what's ahead?" the stranger challenged, his voice echoing through the hushed air. "Because once you see, there will be no denying what the truth entails." "I'm ready!" Lydia shouted, the adrenaline surging in her veins. "Show us." With that, the stranger tossed aside the folder and gestured dramatically to the congregation. "Very well. Let us examine those hidden truths." Images flickered to life on the walls, dark realities of secrets, once cloaked in shadows. Footage from fundraisers portrayed not altruism, but clandestine dealings, hushed conversations exchanged behind closed doors. Each visual word hung heavy like a dark mist. Lydia's heart sank as she sank deeper into revelations. Familiar faces, friends who had cheered for charity now marred by greed and backdoor deals. She felt their betrayal seep into her, corrosive and bitter. "Lies weaved together with your trust," the stranger said, his voice coated with disdain. "Will you acknowledge it, or choose to remain blind?" Marissa stepped close again, her eyes fierce. "We can't let this happen, Lydia. This isn't just about us. These people are family, they'll suffer." "I know," Lydia said, her heart aching as the flames of old alliances flickered. Was this truly her moment of reckoning? But they must see. They deserve the chance to choose together. The room bristled with tension, the congregation swaying between disbelief and despair. Old Mrs. Henderson wept, clutching her son's arm. "How could this be true?" "Not everyone here is guilty," George shouted, voice shaking but rising above the discontent. "These actions don't represent our community. We have been good to each other, haven't we?" Lydia pushed through the pain. "George! If we turn away now, we're complicit in this. Isn't our faith built on confronting the darkness?" His fury exploded, and he stepped forward, shaking his head in denial. But the truth wasn't swayed. It bore down on them all, relentless and unforgiving. "We have to make amends," Lydia continued, gathering the pieces of her spirit. "No matter how hard it is. It's the only way to unite our community against the darkness." A heavy silence blanketed the room, and Lydia felt the power of the moment tether them together. Old friendships, slowly frayed by doubt, began to stir with the hint of revival. One by one, the congregation looked back, some nodding in hesitant agreement. The stranger's shadow wavered, uncertainty creeping onto his face as the once desperate air began to shift. "Yes," Marissa shouted alongside Lydia, stepping forward. "We can rebuild. If we confront this together, maybe we can redefine who we are, the kind of community driven by love and honesty." A murmur of agreement swept through the crowd. As eyes flicked from Lydia to George, the shadows flickered quickly, fading from the hearts clenched in fear. It was raw and fearless, and embers sparked amid the dying embers of uncertainty. "Remember this," the stranger growled as he stepped back, realizing his influence was dissipating like mist in sunlight. "Once you're on the other side of the truth, there's no going back." "But we will find our way," Lydia declared, her voice fortified, ringing like a lighthouse guiding lost ships through the storm. The congregation began to hum with resolve, their collective energy building. We're here for each other, flawed and beautiful, ready to face what comes. Suddenly, the heaviness of dread evaporated. The group drew closer together, creating a circle of warmth, reclaiming their entwined spirits. Yes, they had hidden wounds, but healing would bring unity. As the stranger backed into the shadows, fading from view, the atmosphere shifted once and for all. Lydia felt her chest loosen, a long-held sigh escaping. "I promise," she whispered into the embrace of her community, "we'll overcome this. Together, we'll redefine our fate." The lives they built from kindness, love, and faith would rise from the ashes stronger than before. And as they forged ahead, every tear, every stitch of pain would transform into the fabric of a new legacy. No longer puppets bound to strings of deceit, but a unified force. Ready. Resilient. As the doors of the past creaked open, Lydia stepped forward into the light. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and let us grow this community. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about the ending. No holding back. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters, and the next adventure awaits. Join us on this journey.